Okay, hello. Joseph here speaking. Hello for the third meeting, the third open meeting. I think what I need to say again is that these meetings are really open for everyone, because I made this one meeting for coaches and now I got several mails, people asking if this meeting is for everyone. But this meeting that I did for coaches was independent of these open meetings that I do. So yeah, I feel there was a bit of a confusion about this. So I probably need to say this a few more times until everyone feels like they're really allowed to attend. So I'm sitting outside and it's raining a bit. I think it's maybe nice, a bit of rain sound in the background. But if it's very annoying, then just write in the chat and then I will move inside. But I can think a bit better if I'm outside. And I hope that the internet connection that I have is stable, because it seems to be a tiny bit unstable at the moment. But usually for this sort of things, it should be okay. Okay. Yeah, my internet is a bit unstable. So now I switch to a different one. So maybe it is because it's raining at the moment and the normal internet I'm using is through the mobile connection, because the wires in the earth here in Berlin are super slow. But I'm trying to do it this way with the internet that is a bit slower, but I think it should work because it's only speaking. Okay, where was I? I was saying this is open for everyone. I was saying I'm sitting outside. It's raining a bit. I hope this sound is like a nice thing in the background and doesn't bother anything. But it might be that I need to move inside at some point, because it might be that some kids start to play in the garden, like my kid and also others. Okay, last time we talked a lot about buying, ethics of buying and of selling as well. These were like the main topics. And from there, we had like a cliffhanger to this meeting where the idea was to talk more about things like, self-employment, how much things should cost, and so on and so forth. And this, I see definitely independent what we're talking about from the current situation, but obviously the situation momentarily is quite interesting for people that are working self-employed, that are self-employed, or that are entrepreneurial, doing entrepreneurial things. So yeah, there will be definitely references if I want it or not. If you want to say something, you can always do. There are two possibilities. One is you write in the chat, and the other one is you speak, which I prefer. I prefer I can hear your voice. I think that's nicer. That's a nicer way of talking with another, but feel also free to just write in the chat. And if you want to say something, it's best if you raise your hand. There's a raising the hand function that you can use. So it's not always that everyone finds this function, but usually it's relatively easy to find. And if you don't find this function, you can just write in the chat that you're raising your hand. Okay, that's all about the technical details. As I said, if there's anything wrong with my audio, if you have trouble hearing me, then please notify me, because obviously I cannot tell. Okay, so let's start. So I want to start talking about self-employment and the difference between being employed by someone. I'm never been employed. I've never been employed in my life, so I don't really know how it is. I was always, in a sense, self-employed, although I had phases when I was working primarily for certain companies, which are 3 different companies that I worked first for the first one, and the second one, and the third one. But none of these companies ever employed me really, but always paid me for the work that I did. So yeah, I was always in that sense, I was always self-employed because I never had a working contract with anyone. And for several years now, I work only for myself. And now, since it became a tiny bit bigger, there's also usually 1 or 2 people employed. Like one is Christian, who is working for me for 2 years, I think, and another one is Annika, my partner, who is now stopped to work with me for the moment because we have a second child and she's taking 1 year off. Okay, I see self-employment as something that is not for everyone, because in a sense, the stress is higher. In my point of view, it's a survival situation that you are in because you never know what's going to happen. Yes, there are configurations of self-employment where you're pretty safe, like where you sort of know what's going to happen because you have your people that you work with very regularly. But even that, like in a situation like we are now, where you don't have contracts as a self-employed person, like it can be that from one day to the other, you are out of work. Usually you're not out of work, let's say, because self-employment as self-employed, as someone who's self-employed, you can usually work all the time, also when no one is paying you, because there's lots of other stuff you can do, like just doing your tax report or something like this. Yeah, but the work that is paid, suddenly it can disappear. Yeah, when there are situations like this, but also in just when everything seems to be going according to plan. Like a friend of mine who's also self-employed had this recently, like before the Corona pandemic happening, that he thought he would get a certain job and he was like sort of laying his eggs into one basket that was this job, and then he didn't get it, and this was like very problematic for him. So if you're self-employed, you need to be smart. It's a survival situation. If you're in a survival situation, you cannot be you cannot make stupid mistakes because your survival is dependent on it. I like very much the picture that Josef Frucek from Fighting Monkey is often talking about in his workshops, in their workshops, from Josef and Linda. He has this metaphor of that you are in Siberia, very, very far away from a hospital. So how would you do your life? You would probably do it very differently from how you live if you live in a big city, where it takes an ambulance, like I think 7 minutes is in Berlin, that an ambulance should reach you in 7 minutes, and then probably it takes 7 minutes to go back to the hospital. So you can go to the hospital very, very quickly. But when you're in Siberia, in a remote place where you can only get to by a helicopter, and you suddenly cut some wood and you cut into your leg, then that might be a very, very, very bad day. Because nowadays we heavily we have heavily changed our behavior, I think, because we know the medical system is so good. So yeah, it seems like I'm doing I'm making a reference here to the current situation, which I'm doing not, but it seems like I cannot get out of this situation of making references. So a very good example is the people that go skiing in the Alps, backcountry skiing. All the people that work there in their rescue teams report that the number of rescue missions have went up tremendously, because now there's cell phone reception in the high Alps. So when people do backcountry skiing off the normal slopes, then they know, okay, if I have a mobile phone, I can always reach the rescue teams and I can be safe with a helicopter. So people are doing much more dangerous things and are much less prepared than people before the time you had a cell phone or cell phone reception there in the mountains, which obviously, if you think about it, is a bit problematic from several point of views. Like, one thing is, it can always be that suddenly you don't have cell phone reception, or the battery of your phone dies or something like this. Yeah, so that technical items are just not reliable enough to heavily rely on them. That's one thing. Another thing is that it can always be that the rescue mission has trouble finding you if you get covered under snow. And the third thing is that you are basically a burden for other people, because these people that are doing rescue missions are not doing it because they feel it's a lot of fun. Maybe it is fun for them, but for them it's very serious work, and their energy is also limited. So if you go into the mountains to do backcountry skiing, then you should take a lot of responsibility for yourself and not act in a way where the measures of society that are only for, like, let's say, the extremes, that they are overly used. And so if you take this example together with the example of living in Siberia, you, I think, can get an idea of what I think is also applicable if you're self-employed. Because if you're self-employed, it means taking responsibility for yourself, and it means there's not always someone to help you within 7 minutes. So, for example, now in Germany, if you're self-employed, you can get some money from the state, yeah, to help, which is nice. It's nice. But on the other hand, people shouldn't rely on a rescue like this. So the responsibility that people have is also to take care of themselves, in the sense that they take measurements for such things, for moments where you cannot work, because it can be something like this, but it can also be that you get sick, or that for some other reason it's just not possible to work for you. And maybe in your country there are things that you can use then as a self-employed person, but usually people that are self-employed everywhere in the world have much worse possibility of getting anything from the state if they suddenly cannot work anymore. And it gets especially problematic if you have very high costs. For example, if you have rent to pay, or if you are also paying other people and other people are working for you. So maybe if you have if you're an entrepreneur, or you have a company, and so on and so forth. So it's the equivalent of having some food in your cellar, just to have a bit of bit of extra food there, you know, in case you get sick, you cannot go to the supermarket or something like this. And what many people don't know is that the German government is what's the word, is recommending the people to have, I think, 14, like food worth of 14 days, 2 weeks at home. Almost no one knows this, but this is really like an official recommendation of the German government, because usually, like, I mean, in the big city, people have maybe food at home for 2 days. I usually have food at home for 1 week. Yeah, but the official recommendation is to have 2 weeks. So now if you think about something like financials, then it could be also said, yeah, maybe it's good to build some cushion up if you're self-employed, just because it's so unreliable that this should be one of the first priorities, to build up some cushion, just because you don't know what's going to happen in the next month, some financial cushion. Same like if you would be in a survivor situation where you don't know when you will successfully hunt the next time, yeah, depending on the area where you would be on the planet. Okay, some survival situations can be maybe like more reliable if you're more something like the rainforest, and other situations can be less reliable about getting food, especially when you're in an area where it becomes winter. If you think about winter always means you have to prepare, because in winter it's very hard, obviously, to get plants, and the animals are running away. So if you are not lucky hunting, then you cannot gather plants if you have not gathered them before winter. So on all of this is true also if you're self-employed. And of course, for many people that are self-employed, they are self-employed and earning relatively little. Of course, for them it's very, very difficult to build something up, but still, it's to try it is very, very, very useful, because it creates a peace of mind. But there are two sides about this. There's one story that I really like, that I often think about, is I have a friend who is like a well-known pop star in Germany, and he knows several of these other well-known guys, and he told me about one rapper that is very known, and he told me that this rapper, when he started to get more known, he got like a contract where he got a lot of money, at least for someone that is just starting to get known. And he used this money to buy a very expensive watch. Basically used sort of all this money to buy this expensive watch. Yeah, this was like his first higher paycheck. If you think about it, it sounds amazingly stupid to do something like this. Yeah, you just the first time you got a higher sum of money, and you don't have to like maybe look at all the prices in the supermarket anymore, or you can go to a restaurant that is a bit nicer or something like this. And the first thing you do is you buy a very expensive watch, and all your money is gone for something that is completely useless. It just tells you the time. It's just, and besides that, it's just a status thing, but something that costs €5 tells you the time, equally good than a very expensive watch, as long as you're not like diving 200 meters deep or something like this. Yeah, but the guy said, this rapper said, you need to stay hungry. This I really liked, because on the one hand I thought, oh, that's amazingly stupid to do something like this. But then this answer, it sort of made sense, because the problem with security is that it can make you sluggish, that it can make you sit on the couch. And I think this is why self-employment is for some people and not for others, because there are people that thrive when they're self-employed. They thrive from this survival situation, from this sort of stress that is in there, catching the animal, getting your food. Yeah. And this answer of this guy, that you need to stay hungry, was clearly that he is thriving when he needs to work, when he has nothing, and then he has the energy. And I can understand. I can understand. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But other people, so that's him, but other people, for them it would be, in a sense, the opposite. It would be too much stress. They would like get heavily damaged, let's say, by this. And I know people that tried self-employment and went back to being employed. Yeah, and not just a few. It seems to be a regular pattern. It's definitely not for everyone. So it really depends on what people want. I personally never had the choice. Yeah, no one offered me to employ me. I had the time when I would have liked it, and I would have definitely liked it. But now I'm, in a sense, I'm also happy that it went like this, and I feel like most likely it will forever stay like this, and I will never be employed by anyone. At least I don't want to be employed by anyone. Of course, I cannot say what happens in the next many years. Vince says usually no one gets offered to be employed. They apply for it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although, if you are exceptional in what you do, there can be offers of being employed. And actually, if you're in something like IT, also it can be that you are on something like LinkedIn or something. You get headhunters that ask you if you want to get employed by their company, because everyone wants a good IT guy nowadays. So yeah, self-employment is not for everyone. For some people, it's just too much stress. Other people thrive in this situation. And it also depends on, I think, yeah, how you look at life, what you want to do in your life, what your situation is. For me, my situation when I got children, like, which are now two children, it changed very much the way I work. It got much more structured and organized. But I tell you, I have very little time or I spend very little time for things that I would also say I'm not so interested in. Yeah, I very rarely watch a movie. There is a pile of movies that I want to see, like old school, very like artistic movies that I think are, yeah, very worth watching. It's not entertainment because it's usually not fun to watch such movies. But yeah, I don't really have much time for it at the moment. Of course, when my children get older, I will again have time for it. But at the moment, I do my work, and because I really like it, I really like it. I love to work on my, in German we say Werk, which is very hard to, I don't know how to translate it. Let's see if I can find something. No, opus. The opus, this I could say. Yeah, like the totality of what I do. This I really enjoy doing. And the time I'm not doing this, I spend with my kids and with Annika. And of course also with friends, but also my time with friends is quite reduced, and I just don't spend time clicking around on YouTube or on Facebook or something like this, because I need to take responsibility for my work and for my family and for what I do, and this is what I'm doing. Juan, you want to say something? Please.
Yeah, do you hear me? Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about also the other side of being employed, that for me personally was very useful actually to work for someone and to work for, like directly for a boss in the industry of how do you say, well, restaurants. I was a Kellner, I don't know, in English it's
A waiter.
a waiter, yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. For me, it was useful to deal with someone that tells you to do stuff and that you can practically can't do anything. Like if you don't do the things, you just get kind of, you are not the person they want specifically. So it's also interesting to deal with these kind of situations of like especially for me, because I'm also like more the self-employee style. So it was super difficult, super challenging, and it really taught me a lot. That's my comment.
Nice. Yeah, thank you, Juan. Yeah, that's very interesting thought. Yeah. For me, it also definitely helped to work for 3 different companies and to sort of have a boss there, because my main work at this time was for this, at least for 2 of these companies, was the main time I spent was for them. It taught me a lot about how to be an employer. So how to work with people that are working for me. Although I was more learning about what not to do, let's say. I was taking what I didn't like and now sort of do the opposite and try to do it in a way where Christian doesn't feel like the typical employed person that is just like, do what I tell you, or that's it, or you have to go. This is not the relationship that we have. It's more it's more soft in a way. It's more like seeing really what is okay for everyone to do, that they're not don't need to bend their own being too much, because this is also something that I wouldn't want to do. Yeah, but as I said, like everyone is different. For some, one configuration will be better than for someone else. But it's definitely, if someone is self-employed, if you're self-employed, it's definitely something to think about it as something where you can thrive and take this sort of survival stress that can come up also in a situation like this. If you are maybe in a business that is now closed or something like this, to take it as something that creates energy, the hunger that makes you go onto the hunt. Yeah, so that's the thing. How do you deal with stress? Like, do you deal with it in a positive way, that it makes you energetic and strong, or is it very difficult for you? Peter, yeah, I would love you to say something.
Hello, Joseph. I was thinking about, is it possible to combine the best of both worlds, or how could it be most possible to combine having a healthy or a good amount of hunger suited to one's own ability to be stressed, and at the same time have a buffer. Like, for example, I was thinking about maybe if I have some cash extra, if I put it in a different bank account that I don't see, then maybe I can kind of simulate still being hungry and being what's the word for when you want to save money, like not spending too much, because I have maybe some targets of only how much I want to spend every month. I don't know. I was just thinking of strategies to combine staying hungry and being safe.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have yourself an answer to this?
Well, that was one idea I had about having like hiding the buffer, so you still feel exposed, but that you're actually not. I guess that's one way. I don't know if that could be adjusted to other ways. No, I was thinking of the question without having other ideas in mind.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. It could be also something that is not so easy to touch, you know, that is more something really for emergencies. Let's say, for example, because if you're self-employed, you also have to sort of look at what do you do when you get older? Like, how do you, when you retire, how will you retire? I don't know how it's, for example, in Denmark, but here in Germany, like currently, at least the state is not taking care of my retirement. I have to build my retirement up by myself. So one possibility of this would be to buy stocks, or better to buy like ETFs, and build your retirement money through this. So for example, if you would now build your retirement, but at the same time it is something that you could enter, because for example, if you build through your retirement through a mix of like index funds, bonds, and blah blah blah, this stuff, it's not something that you usually want to touch, because the power is if you just keep it there and that it grows through time, through the interest that it compounds, so that when you're 65 or 70 or whenever you need or want to stop the work, that you can do it then. But there's still the possibility of selling it. It always depends on the time. Obviously now would be the worst time to sell it, but still the possibility would be there, you know, like you have some security, but you don't want to take this. You don't want to take this money, because at the same time, you know, okay, this is your retirement money. This is what you're building for your retirement. That would be, I think, that would be sort of my option that I would do.
Yeah, makes sense. So to me, I summarize that as one is adding friction to the buffer, to using the buffer, and the other is maybe setting different rules as to what qualifies as a reason to use the buffer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, adding friction is a great idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah. No, it's interesting also to see like how different people like are reacting to it, you know. And there are people that sort of they just have enough at some point. I'm not really sure what I am, but I would also think that I have a sort of this idea that I could imagine when I would have like if I would imagine now I would have like enough money that I can just live my life, I would really think about like doing my stuff in a sense for free in some sort of way, because I really love my work and it's combined with earning money through it. But even if I wouldn't need to work, I would still do it because I really love it. I would maybe change a few things here and there, and sometimes I could take more time to build something before I show it to someone. Yeah, because I would be less concerned about, okay, at some point I need to publish and show what I'm doing, because I need also people to come in so I can continue the work. Now I lost what I wanted to say. Yeah, it was just a contemplation for how it would be for me. And for me, I also know that when I think on one hand I deal positively when I lack money, but on the other hand, it is also quite a stress for me. So the times when it was like at a very stressful point for me, I know that, okay, I was like sleeping bad, I was also getting sick, but I was also getting energy to get out of the situation. So it was, for me, sort of both happening. It's like definitely taking a toll on me in these situations, and I try my best to, like go into a meditative state with it, but at the same time, I don't want to be too much in this tranquil state, because I want to use this energy to get out of the situation again. Yeah, and through all the years of self-employment, it has happened to me several times that I was in this situation of like lying awake in bed and thinking like, let's see what the next months bring. And it always went out, like it always became all well, but definitely I got a few times sick that probably wouldn't have happened without this stressful situation. Yeah, so for me it's a bit of an ambivalent situation. So it can be nice, but on the one hand can be also taking a toll. If anyone wants to add something, feel really free to do that. Okay, I was now also saying that I would definitely also work if I wouldn't need to work for money, because I really love what I do, and I think this is a very great gift, because I know many people that don't have this. I know this especially from people that are employed, that they see the work as something they don't like. When I wake up in the morning excited to do what my work is. And I think this is just a very great situation. And I know in our time today, it feels that is something rare. Yeah. Maybe a book recommendation about this that is interesting, that I found nice, is from Cal Newport, who wrote also Deep Work. He has another book that he wrote before. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. It's a nice book because it goes into it's a bit of can be a bit of a hard read for someone that wants to change to something that they are very excited about, because he says, be a bit careful with this. The likelihood that it doesn't work is very, very high. It's very, in a sense, very rational book. It is not about do what your dream is and follow your dreams, and is much more rational. So if you're in a situation where you think about changing from, like, for example, in an employed situation that you don't like, into something that would be your dream, then maybe read this book, because it will help you, because it will make you think more rational about this. Although I need to say, what he writes in this book, for me, it didn't really apply. Because I don't know, I never had these problems, but that he describes there, in a sense, although, as I just said, I also had my very, very difficult situations. But I think the difference is that I just started very early. Like, I never did something else than what I do. Okay, but this idea of how would you approach your work if you wouldn't need to get paid for it, I think is a very nice idea. Just to think about it, like, what you do something different. maybe then you can actually change it to doing it like this or more like this, and then actually make your work better or get more freedom or whatever with it. And if we now talk about money, another question is also, how much is something worth? How much should someone charge for something? And I was thinking about it for a long time. And recently, a friend of mine, Oscar, who's translating all my texts from German to English, who's a very good friend that I discuss with a lot. He gave me something additional to this that I really like. So the common thing that we have, that we all know of, is time. No, the time that something needs. Yeah, if you buy if someone repairs something at your home, he writes on the invoice, he writes the time that it took. Okay, but then there is another thing, which is quality, which I think is also clear. Quality means how difficult is something. It doesn't necessarily mean how unique is something, because things can be very unique, but not very, no one wants to pay a high price for it. Okay, for example, if you take a shit and you want to sell it, it's your unique shit, but it's probably not worth for anyone to pay money for it. Other things have a high price, not because it takes a long time necessarily, but the quality is very high. If you think about a doctor that has trained to become a doctor for 10 years, obviously he charges more because there's a higher quality. So this is how I use the word now, like how difficult is this, what the person is doing, how much time did this take to build this up. But it's not a necessity, it can be also that there's just someone very talented at something and it just comes to him and he's the only person that can do this and he's super unique, and this is why this can cost more, because it has a very high quality. And that's why also people earn different wage per hour, because some have more unique abilities or took more time and so on and so forth. Is this just? No, because you cannot quantify this properly, and we don't live in a just world. It's a very unjust world, and that's very sad, but that's just this is the system. I'm just describing it how it is. So if someone works in a supermarket, he earns less per hour than someone that is a doctor, because it's much more difficult to become a doctor than someone working in a supermarket, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, Oscar, he told me a third thing. He added a third thing, which is energy. And this I really like, which is, what is the energy it takes to do something? And because we talked about coaching, about teaching, and we both said it can be that you teach for 1 hour and then you need to rest for 2 hours after, and you cannot continue to work. And it can be that you teach for 1 hour and you feel so excited from it that you can directly continue. And it depends also a lot on whom you teach. Let's say you do privates, like one-on-one teaching, and you teach someone that you really like. He's also very excited. He brings his energy and so on and so forth. And you feel also very good and very energetic after. And then there can be other people, other clients or students that are more difficult, that maybe have a more difficult attitude, or that are just complex, like that have very, like certain problems that you need to solve and you need to really deeply think, because it's something more unique. It's not something that's happening all the time, and so on and so forth. And this takes a huge amount of energy. I can definitely feel it. Like if I have people that fit more into my structure, let's say, my structure that I build, someone fits into the structure and I can just work with him like this, then it doesn't take much energy. And when someone comes and like there are lots of things doesn't work and you need to change this and this and that, yeah, it's much more thinking and deep thinking. And this deep thinking is burning a lot of sugar, let's say. It takes a lot of energy. Yeah, so this is definitely also a thing that could come into a price, which is not usually done. Yeah, like usually, like let's say for privates, you charge everyone sort of the same. Although there might be another discussion. If you should charge someone differently that is having much more money than someone that is having less, but there might be a discussion for a later time. But let's say you have a client, a student that is just not taking a lot of energy, and you have a student that if you have the student, you cannot work directly after. You need some time to regain your energy, just because it doesn't need to be because the person has a difficult attitude. It can really just be because this person is just more complex. You need to really focus so hard and think so hard that it takes a lot of energy. As I said, usually this is not really taken into account. It might be also difficult to communicate, to say, yeah, you are taking more energy from me, so I have to charge you more. Maybe there's a nice way to do this, but this was something I talked about with my friend Oscar, that, yeah, this is an interesting situation, that you have just some people that you as a teacher get out of the class completely different from one person than from the other, but everyone is paying the same price, but it feels different. It's like, I think every one of you that's teaching will understand what I mean. That we have people where I think, oh, and now I have this guy, I need to really put my energy together, because it doesn't come by itself, or because it will just take a lot of energy from me. So this is another factor. It's time, it's quality, and it's the energy that is needed for such work. Yeah, and teaching is something that can be, that can heavily rely on a high energy, which means it cannot be done in an assembly line way, where you just stand and you do the boom, 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 next one. For me, it's amazing how some people, like some personal trainers, they teach like 8 hours, like one hour, like eight people a day. Yeah, I've never done something like this in my life. I've taught many workshops that also go for 8 hours, sometimes 12 hours a day. But teaching workshops usually takes, at least for me, it's a different energy that it takes from doing privates. And I tell you why. When you do a private, the focus between you and the other person is very high. And when you teach a workshop, you have your moments and minutes where you can unfocus for a moment, where you can regain the energy. Yeah, it's like you show an exercise, you walk around, you correct, but then you also have your 1, 2, 3, sometimes 5 minutes where people can just try and do, and you are regaining your energy, and not all the time 100% extreme focused. And like this, you can last a 12-hour day when you teach a workshop, which would be difficult in one-on-one situations, when person is just coming in for 1 hour, one demands your full energy, then the next person is coming for 1 hour, demands your full energy, next person comes in for 1 hour, demands your full energy. So I'm teaching for many years, but it's still a mystery for me how personal trainers that are doing this are doing it. I have to say that my assumption is that it is very much an autopilot, what's happening there, which I don't like to do. Juan, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, hey. I feel that you, Joseph, always you are really aware of your energy. Yeah, that's cool. And when you feel that you kind of low energy and this thing of getting unfocused, how do you you do something like you go into yourself or with breathing, like
Within a workshop or within the day by day?
yeah, like how do you can do you regain energy but within the workshop somehow, like
Within the workshop.
other people? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, one simple thing would be to take a break. To say, okay,
Yeah.
guys, let's do a break of whatever it takes. Can be sometimes a 5-minute break, or can be also longer, half an hour, blah blah blah. Yeah, but another thing might be to switch to something where my focus or my energy is not so needed for the time being. You know?
Okay.
So I can take myself out for a short moment to regain the energy, and the people can continue working. Let's say to be very, very concrete for something like movement, that it's to do some partner games where people are working a lot with each other, and to do several rounds, and maybe it's 10 minutes of this partner games, and it's very clear. And for the time being, my focus is not so much needed because there's not really something to correct, you know, and I can go within myself. I can go within myself. Sort of like, going away from the room and regaining the energy, and then bringing the energy back out.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, energy, time, and quality. If any one of you has something to say about this, I would be interested, definitely. Yeah, Dowie, let's go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it works. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like your 3 variables of time, quality, energy. And I think they're more of a kind of internal way to talk about what something is worth. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, or how you determine a price. This is more kind of relative to your own energy, your own time, and how much effort it is. But I think then there are other factors like, so of course, what are people willing to pay? Like what you referenced to, of how much money do people actually have? And then also, there's the issue of like, how do you compare it to other work? Like with the same, and it's also what you mentioned, like there's some unjust in people with a PhD in, I don't know, art would not earn the same amount of money as people with a PhD in engineering or medicine.
Yeah.
And I think the last part would be relative to other teachers. So then determining your worth more in a like external way, how you would think about that.
One thing is the market, let's say, like the market prices, you know, and I think this is also what you mentioned already, like certain markets have certain prices. Like if you think about, like you said, engineering. In engineering, people usually earn more in a sense than the market of musicians. Although these markets are a bit difficult to compare, because engineers are usually working more yeah, the working situation is just a bit different, like artistic situations to how do I categorize engineering? Yeah, it's this sort of situations, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's definitely one thing, but it's also a problematic thing. So now, if you think about, for example, the dance world, is people earn very little, yeah, but the time it took them to build this up, the energy it takes them to work, and the quality, it's all there. You know, it's all there. The people have a lot of training. They need to be highly energetic to do this work. But the problem there is that, as you said, also, what are people willing to pay? And for something like arts, and especially for something like dance, it can be very little, because it's just not such a popular art to watch it, where other arts might be more popular. But arts always have the winner takes it all problem, that some people get very known and they get very, very rich. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a painter or an actor or a musician, or can be also a dancer. And then most other painters, musicians, blah 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 blah, they earn very little. Yeah, so there's a huge gap between the people that are very known and the people that are less known. That's a huge problem in the art world. Thus, it's also difficult for them to price themselves well, because when you are at the lower range, where you're not so known, the competition is extremely high. And it is a huge problem when people are selling themselves for prices that are that are lower than market prices. So if you think about the dance world, many dancers, they really, really want to dance, they really want to perform. So they would even do performances. Many dancers are doing this, performances where they don't get paid. I made a video about this. Is Dancing at Economics. It's called. It's super ridiculous. Like, because they want it so much, and because they always say, like, yeah, I'm doing this for my portfolio, so I can say, yeah, I dance for this company, I dance in this piece, blah blah blah. But when will the day come that they get paid the amount they're actually worth? For some people it comes, but for many it doesn't. And the problem is, if so many dancers are just sort of giving their work away for too little, then the people that want to charge more, they will suffer from it, because then people will just say, no, actually then we take another dancer that wants less. So it is important to be aware of the other people that are working in the same field, and to sort of be an ally in this field, and to say, okay, we have our prices in this field, because this is what it's worth, and this is like not too much, like this is the prices that this should cost, and we stick to this. But obviously, it's like not everyone will play this game. So this is definitely one thing that determines how much you can charge. And when I charge for my things, this is obviously also something I look at. I look like, okay, what's usual price for this? But then I also look, okay, what's the quality that I can give, what's the energy this takes me, and the time. Yeah, but then this is maybe the fourth variable. What is the market price for this? And there can be also funny things, like personal trainer working with like the normal people, and then personal trainer working in Monaco, and then he has the same quality, and maybe it's also the same energy it takes him, but he charges much more, just because he's in a different market. Although it's the same field, but it's a different market. In Monaco, you can probably, I don't know, but probably people are charging more there than in Berlin. Say something. You need to help me now so that I can continue my thought.
Thank you.
That's not helpful.
That because it answers and it also makes me think. There's in I guess the ethics of selling. One part is what the activity is worth in time, quality, and energy. And then if it comes to the ethical side of it, one is where it becomes maybe a question is how low can you go and still be true to the market and also to yourself?
Yeah.
And the other end would be how high would be ethical.
Yes.
So if you would be the most famous movement teacher in the world, you could charge high, but then there's maybe tension between availability for people
Exactly.
and how much you would earn. And it's also for myself personal question on what my thoughts are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fully with you. Like for me, this is definitely the thing. I try to have this balance. Like I want to make it available to people. So one thing I'm trying to do is also having different options, you know. So depending also what people are willing to pay, or what their possibilities are. And for example, yeah, so we have sometimes people from countries where the currency that they have, the value compared to the euro is just much less. So for them, in a sense, what I do costs much more. And then it's the question, it's a difficult situation, because it's like, okay, how do I deal with this situation? Like in a sense, he needs to pay more. He needs to work more than a person from Germany, although even if he would be in the same job, so even if he would have the same quality and blah, 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 blah. Just because, yeah, he was like unlucky in the lottery, and I was so lucky in a sense because I live in Europe or in Germany, and so on and so forth. So it's a riddle. I think it's not a koan. It's a koan. It's not possible to solve it somehow, because you're always in this. Okay, yeah, there is a certain market price. There is also a price that it's really worth, or that you just look at what is the money that you need for your life to live the life that you want to live or need to live. Yeah, especially if you have like maybe also more people to feed than yourself. And then, yeah, this thing that, okay, you want to make it available for people, and then if someone is very known, as you said, he can, like if someone is in a winner takes it all type, he can charge very much. But is this ethical, the right thing? Doesn't this create a society with very problematic layers, like separated by money and blah, 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 blah? It's so difficult to answer this. Vin, last one, Vin, because it's already 1 hour, but I'm very interested what you want to say.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I actually raised my hand like probably 4 minutes ago, Josef. But
I know, I saw
so
this.
it's a little bit unrelated to the last part, but it's a little bit about the dancing on economics thing, because what I'm noticing right now with I call them now personal trainers or whatever you want to call them, is that they are in this scenario we are in right now with the Corona crisis and stuff, are really starting to discount their services by like a lot. By that I mean like 50% discounts, or come in and I do online coaching for you for like 30% of my normal rate. And I think this is very, very problematic for like all of us, because in a way we are all sitting in the same boat. This is like what you talked about. We have to like stand united and do not discount right now, like because we all need to have some sort of income. But then again, now we are in a time where part of our services can be even more important to some people because they are isolated and stuff. So what do you think about, from an ethical standpoint about discounting now because people need it. And this is against what we said before, you know, like when people need something, when there's a high demand, then the prices usually go up. But ethically, you can like make an argument for exactly the opposite.
Yeah, it's also riddle, it's also a coin. So exactly, there's one thing, you want to keep the market price because otherwise it might be also hard to rise it up back later. Then there is maybe, yeah, if in what we do, which is, let's say it's about health, it's very good for the people that sit at home, don't know what to do. How do we solve this riddle? Like, how do we let people participate? I would maybe say that I don't know, first of all, how to solve it. I personally, I don't want to give discounts. So I'm definitely with you, Vin. What I did is I told people that do like longer lasting things with me, like things that go like 1 year, like the studentship. I told them they can delay the payment. But I didn't tell them like it gets cheaper. I just told them, okay, you can, if you are in a problematic situation, you can pay later. That's okay. Yeah. But I also don't want to give discounts. I don't know if I say I'm against it. Yeah, maybe I'm against it. It's hard to say. If someone is now priced cheaply, I think, for example, if it's some online stuff, it should be priced more cheap, because then people get maybe also a bit less, or because it's like a group thing instead of a one-on-one or something like this, then that's okay. You know, that people find like new ways to distribute their work that is cheaper for people. But cheaper should always mean also you get less, because otherwise it becomes like very distorted and very problematic and so on and so forth. That's my short thoughts that might change. Okay, Peter, yeah. Okay, then you will be the last one, and then we really have to close it.
Okay, am I unmuted now? Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to add my two cents based on my indirect personal experience with pricing now in coronavirus. I work full-time at Amazon, for full disclosure, in the corporate part, so I'm now working from home. I'm not providing these kinds of services to anyone, but I'm on the receiving end of one thing that happened. And I'm taking now sort of watching online classes of a studio all the way in Australia, and seeing their struggles. So the first thing that I'm actually experiencing as a paying customer, my daughter is in a private kindergarten, which obviously had to close the second week of March. And right now, apparently the kindergarten is demanding or requesting, I should say, a full payment from all the parents, even though they're performing essentially zero service. What they're doing now is they are sending materials and sending some links and PDF files to things that the parents can print out or help the child color. Which is, you know, not the 8 hours of care that we are actually paying them for. And there's parents take different attitudes. Obviously, some parents, at least one parent in some families, lost their job, or they are struggling with some major financial crisis next to it. In some families, both parents are working. They're working from home. They're in corporate positions. They can afford to pay. So there's a question. We have a Facebook group that I'm trying to follow because it's in Polish and I don't speak that great Polish, but the discussions there are around solidarity among the parents. So, those who can afford to pay, how much should they pay? Should we still pay the full price so others can afford to pay less? And obviously priorities, because they need to stay home. At least one of them now needs to stay home with the child to provide that 8 hours of care that the kindergarten is not providing. So it's a lot of ethical dilemmas, I guess, on the receiving end as well. The second thing I wanted to say about companies or different providers or trainers cutting their prices, there's a lot of I guess gyms or trainers who have a physical location, like they opened their own CrossFit box, or they opened their own movement studio, or just started to rent a space and they renovated it and they have a credit, or they have at least a lease on it. And essentially their revenue, which used to come from, in Poland we have something called multi-sport. Corporate people get it as a benefit. You pay like, I don't know, 5-10 euros a month. Company matches the rest. And then as if you go to a class in one of the participating gyms, it comes off your account. So it's like a flat payment for you, and you get to pick from a buffet of providers. So that dried up for them. I guess for these guys, the Australian guys, their entire revenue from clients coming in for classes or private classes at the gym location also dried up entirely. And now they're trying to sell online packages, so groups of pre-recorded videos explaining the different progressions or explaining the basics of exercises. And what they're doing for free, they're giving away, they have on YouTube live classes where they are doing the exercises, but without the, so follow along, but without the explanations. So to still incentivize people to buy the packages. So that's just my experience. Wanted to throw it out there, just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Good. Yeah, that was very interesting. There was maybe also very interesting end of our discussion here. This kindergarten thing I can very much relate to. I'm definitely not in the situation that I have to pay a full kindergarten thing, because our son is in a public kindergarten, and here in Berlin it doesn't cost anything, just that you pay for food. You pay like very little. I think it's like 25 euros a month you pay for food. But what is very funny, I think, is they still charge this. And yeah, okay, why do you charge this? I mean, I hope you're not still ordering the food and then throw it all away. It's a bit of a weird situation, I think, but yeah, it's definitely something to discuss. Good. Actually, it's I found a good end. To this, which is I also got hooked by this doing stream classes, doing follow-alongs, and we started also now to do it with the people from the group here in Berlin. It works quite well, and I'm thinking of doing it also public, like that I do some classes, that I do classes where everyone can participate, but I also don't know how to price them. So I definitely have this problem that we talked about at the moment. It's not about giving discounts. It's more about seems to be for me like a complete new market that I enter, and I have no idea what the prices are. So, but maybe I'm just left with this ambivalent situation and deal with it, or I need to look around what other people charge. Yeah, good. This was it for today. Very, very much thanks to everyone for participating. Lots of stuff we talked about, and we will continue next time and see where it goes. All right. See you next time. And
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.